Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for being here today with us. We're gonna let folks trickle in here, but if you thought that you signed up and are in the room for the Fed Community Workbook Deep Dive with Daisa and OCFSN, you were in the right place. So thanks for signing on this morning. And we'll get started in another minute here. We're also going to start out with some updates from OCFSN, some announcements, and then we'll do a little icebreaker and then get into the workshop. You are welcome, if you'd like, in the chat to introduce yourself to any pronouns that you prefer and anything else that you want to share about what you do. But also we'll have an icebreaker question here in a second.
Awesome. Hi, y'all. I know most of you, but I see a couple names for folks that I have not met before. So my name is Shin. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Executive Director of Network Development for OCFSN. And just want to share a couple quick updates. For folks who are not signed up for our monthly newsletter, you can do that on our website in the footer, but also I'm going to drop in the link. And within that, there is a survey that we're trying to get feedback on by the end of this month for the first full network convening that we'll be hosting since, I believe, 2019. So help us plan. And by plan, I mean just help us decide on some dates in November. And yeah, I think that's really all the quick updates that I have, and I'll pass it over to Maham.
Thank you, Shin. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on the call with you all, and I'll be flipping through some of your photo boxes to get more familiar with your faces. I do recognize a couple of you from the last call from workshop 1 in essence. This is a follow-up from the introductory workshop we gave to the network on January 31st. So we're calling it workshop 2, but there is elements of refresher here for anyone who wasn't a part of that. So don't worry. A little bit about me. I'm Maham Rizvi. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm a produce prescription specialist with Daisa Enterprises. I'm here with my colleague, Rochelle, who also specializes in produce prescriptions and ran a program for many years in Massachusetts, so is deeply familiar with the operations of healthy food RX programming. Our team at Daisa developed a framework that we hope to have embedded through healthy food RX programming and in the wider food is medicine field called Fidelity, Equity, and Dignity, or FED as we call it. And that's much of why we've been invited to workshop with you all for each of your programs or at the wider network level. A little bit about what we'll kind of cover today. We're going to start with an icebreaker, and we'll have a spacious 15 minutes to do so because, one, I want to hear all of your voices and get familiar with who's in the room and build a connection. And two, the icebreaker is relevant to our longer dialogue that'll happen throughout the remainder of this workshop, and it will fold into our third workshop to be hosted on April 3rd. We'll go over what is FED and the FED Community Workbook for those who weren't able to attend on the 31st. You'll get at least a high-level overview of what those things are. And then we'll deep dive into the workbook. I'll poll all of you all, and we'll end up breaking up into breakout rooms and having a rich 20 minutes open-ended discussion, and come back to the main room and have share backs with each other. This can, if we find we want more time to continue that discussion, we can absolutely do that. But the last bit of our hour and a half together will be spent kind of taking us out from the granular level and back up to a bird's eye view to apply some of the things we learned and got more familiar with through the Fed Community Workbook and start brainstorming how can it apply at a statewide level or a network level. So we'll jump right in with our icebreaker. I would love to know, what non-human being would you enjoy being for a year? It can be an animal, it can be a plant, it can be a mineral, it can be anything that comes to your mind that isn't human. It can be a gas. Just take 1 minute to reflect to yourselves. And then we're gonna share back live as your sort of introduction or check-in. And I will start a timer for our reflection time. And we are starting now. Okay, coming to a close of our minute. If you haven't thought of what you'd like to be, just choose anything. One of the first things that came to mind, even if it doesn't feel totally accurate. And great, okay. I'm gonna make it so that I can see all of us a bit better. And would anyone be willing to volunteer to come off mute, and feel free to turn your camera on if you'd like, or stay off if it's not the day, and just take 1 minute to share back with us what you chose and why. Yeah, Marcy, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Marcy McMurphy. I work in Eastern Oregon. So the non-human being would be the Louvre in Paris. And I got to go there and tour the museum and just holding all those amazing works of art, as well as the crown jewels. And it gets visited by a lot of different people throughout the year from a lot of different cultures. So that's what I would like to.
Thank you, Marcy. To be the Louvre building. I can see it. You as the glass triangle. And who would like to go next? Or actually, Marcy, do you mind popcorning to someone else? We can work it that way.
Sure. How about Jennifer Nelson?
Hi, good morning. My name is Jennifer. I work with Red Food Unites here in Southern Oregon. And I would choose to be a supernova. So I think that's the only thing I could think of, but it's kind of similar to us and the world is growing and changing and ball of energy. And I will call on Rochelle.
Just kind of tie it together.
You mean me?
Yeah, Lucia, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Hi, my name is Lucia Benavides, pronouns she, her, ella, and I work for Adelante Mujeres. I'm the product prescription coordinator. And I think the non-human being that I would like to spend a year with is, or for is my books. I love reading. That is one of the things that I enjoy the most. And I think that you learn a lot and you travel a lot when you read.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'll pass it to, let me see. Carla.
Good morning. I work with Lucia at Adelante Mujeres, and my name is Carla Fasanich. I would be a plant and not one that we eat. I just want to better understand what they need, how they grow, like the different types of plants. So that's what I would be. And I will popcorn it over to, just looking for Jennifer.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jen Coate, and I use she, her pronouns. And I took this to like a really weird place. That minute went by really fast, I feel. I was like, okay, I think water. I want to be some water. But then I was thinking that's like way too broad. So then I was thinking like a specific volume of water, like a gallon or something. Because then I feel like it would change and like break up to so many different ways. Like, would I go down a drain? Would I join a body of water? Would I be evaporated? And so then that's where I went. That's where I went. And if I, so I'm not really sure. But I will pass it to Amber.
Thanks, Jen. Oh my gosh, I love this question so much. I was thinking I would love to be a bear, or I don't know if other animals hibernate, but some animal that hibernates, because I really feel like with the changes of the season, just the need to, spend more time like inside and slow down and things don't, because our world just like, and everything just keeps moving. And so would love the opportunity to experience the shift of the seasons as an animal that can take that space to hibernate. Let's see. And I will pass it to Maxie.
Hi. I I actually was also thinking water. And the reason, I mean, it could be because in that moment I was helping my infant drink water and I was just like water. Or I've been reading a lot about World Water Day recently. But I think also just thinking about water as a living being rather than just a resource is something that resonates with me a lot. And because in a way, water, like by being water, whatever form of water, you get to experience like everything, every other being and every other element in some shape or in some way in Earth. So that was my thinking. And let's see, I'll popcorn it to Carla.
I just went. I'll popcorn it.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Who? Theo?
Hello. I'm sorry I'm off camera right now, but my name's Theo Lada. I'm in my truck. So once I get inside, I'll be on camera. I'm the Health Equity Manager and Tribal Affairs Advisor for OHSU Health IDS. IDS stands for Integrated Delivery System. I really enjoyed this question. I appreciate you asking it. I first thought I would be a tree, but then who could decide what tree? There's so many options. It's endless. So then I decided to go with the sun because the sun makes the trees grow, right? It makes everything grow. So it would be cool to be able to make things grow just by existing. It seems like a really interesting thing, as well as make things warm. I will pass it to Elle. Elle, have you gone? or Ellie?
No, I have not. Thank you for passing it to me. I joined in late. I'm kind of out and about, and I apologize for that. I was going to say the sun too, but then I thought yesterday I spent a good hours watching a squirrel do what a squirrel does, and I think I want to be a squirrel. So I definitely would be a squirrel. Because I love that they took all the almonds that I laid out for them and buried them all across my yard. It was great. Um, and that's slightly embarrassing to admit. I forgot to mention my pronouns. I use all pronouns and I am with Freedom Freedom. I am going to pass it to Shen.
Thanks, Elle. I think a lot of the things that initially came to mind have been said. Definitely, I was thinking initially like, oh, I would love to be an animal, and I would love to be an animal that hibernates. And then I thought, ooh, a fox. And then I realized foxes don't hibernate. So maybe a little dormouse. Um, or a babbling brook would be really lovely. And I will pass it to, let's see, who hasn't gone yet? I will pass it to Maxie.
Maxie is already gone.
I just went, but I can pass it to Rachel.
Riche, do you want to go?
Sorry.
No worries.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rashay Burns, she, her pronouns, and I'm with Growing Gardens. And if I had to be something, I would probably be lavender. Um, I love lavender. It's my thing. It's my jam, whether it's tea and a little pillow or just hanging out around me to smell good and calming. So today I'm lavender.
How about Rochelle?
I love hearing all these overlaps. It's very fun. Not overlapping, Roche. Lavender gives me migraines, unfortunately, so I can't be with you. We'd have to make sure that we stayed very far away from each other for a year. But oh my goodness, I think it was Elle who actually I was when I first started thinking, I was like a squirrel. I love watching squirrels run through trees, and I've always been so jealous seeing them like on the skyline, just like cruising at the tops of tree canopies. So it's always been kind of something that like as I watch sunsets is like a consideration or a little bit of like a meditation. But the one that I landed on was was the New York City subway system. I just like love the idea of being the thing that like carries millions of people. I love systems. I love like the idea of being like underground and kind of crotchety, and like I get to decide if people get to work on time or if people like have to be late for work and like fall in love with someone sitting next to them. It feels very powerful and feels like a really fun part of infrastructure. So I would be the New York, and I get to go to Coney Island and Brighton Beach whenever I want. So New York City subway system. Katia or Katia. Let me know how to pronounce it. Oh, and I use she, her pronouns and work with Daisa.
Yeah, it's Katya. I use she or they, and I work with Rogue Fuji Nights. And what I thought was like a well-loved stuffed animal belonging to like a 6-year-old girl, just because then I could do like tea parties, I'd get carried around everywhere. I just feel like that would be my vibe. Sorry, I forgot to popcorn it. Who is left? UC Veg? Is that?
Oh, hi. This is Juliet Palinges. I use she, her pronouns. You guys are so adorable, first of all. Very creative. I Well, my first thought was a bald eagle, just because they've been showing up in my life a little bit. But then I remembered something kind of sad that I'm just going to share with you guys and bring you down to like this sad place with me, because I took it very literally, and immediately thought like animals. And I remembered a little statistic from a conference that I just attended that only 6% of wild mammals, or of mammals on the planet, are wild, and something like 60% of all mammals on Earth are livestock, and then the remainder are humans. And I just been observing wildlife from that perspective recently, and just thinking like how hard it is for them right now and how resilient they are to continue to adapt to expanding human infrastructure and animals that we eat, related infrastructure. And so then I was like, I don't know if I want to be a wild animal right now. It looks rough out there. And then I thought maybe I'll be a domesticated animal and like be one of my brother's cats, because they are really well taken care of and loved. So anyway, I was all over the place. I thought about being grandmother moon and getting that wisdom. But yeah, I just thought I would share. I was like, this is maybe sad and dark, but y'all are coming with me on this dark journey this morning. So, anyway, love the question. Thank you. I am the VegRx program manager for VegRx Umpqua down here in Roseburg, Oregon, in the Umpqua Valley. And I work for Thrive Umpqua and am the executive director of UC Veg.
Thank you all. I think I might be the last one. Has anyone else not gone yet?
Oh, I haven't either. I wasn't
Really?
sure if you
Yeah,
had
you
gone
go.
yet,
Yeah.
Maham.
No, you should go.
Um, so I'm with Jen and Maxie here. I thought about being a wave, and then I thought a wave is very short-lived, and maybe I would just keep repeating to be a wave, but then I thought maybe I would be the ocean, and that idea of being influenced by the moon and by different cycles, and not really like in a way kind of letting go of power in or like of, you know, that the moon is controlling like my ebbs and flows, but then also like holding all of these creatures. And then I started thinking about Finding Nemo, and like I could be like the, you know, the container, the like party starter of all of the fun animals, and then also experience like what climate change is doing to like different areas, and like uh, I don't know, it was going all over the place, but I was thinking that the ocean would be and that I could like expand and retract and like be in different spaces around the world. So yeah.
Thank you, Kaylee. Okay, Elle, I'm so sorry. So you gave your answer already, and yes, welcome back. So of course, because I came up with this question, I had a lot of time to think about the possibilities. And much like y'all, saw multiple advantages to being many things non-human. And I was drawn to being a mineral tucked away for millennia that, you know, that's just snug and safe until some quarry miner came and disrupted everything for me. I thought about being a gas so that I could reach all levels and all shapes, and possibly permeate things. But because I also want to facilitate this conversation we're going to have, I'm choosing a snake. A snake is what I would be for a year. This is partially because that is my Chinese zodiac animal, and I do feel connected to it, as it always has since I was a child, was fascinated with snakes. And why I'm drawn to being a snake for a year is the perspective I would really like to feel what it feels like to weave through grasses and slide along the earth and tuck into a crevice and be looking up at the dimension of everything else, and especially like where a snake's eyes are placed, like having a stronger peripheral range of eyesight. So I chose a snake. Creepy, but work with me. They can be elegant too. Thank you all so much for participating in this, and I'm glad it was fun. I'm glad it activated some imagination and offered a chance for you all to share with me, with all of us in the room, what you connect to naturally. It is the theme is view as perspectives, eyesight, and any of the things that you all mentioned could potentially demonstrate some of the dialogue we'll have. So I just ask you to keep in mind what you wrote, and if you're willing to, update your name on the Zoom chat to include what you said you would be. So if you hover over your own box, there's an ellipsis, 3 dots in the right-hand corner, and the option to rename yourself is in the drop-down menu. And you can just add snake dash your name, like I've just done. Yes, NYC subway. I love this. Wonderful. Thank you all. Okay, let's get into it. So for those of you who attended on the 31st, some of this information will be familiar to you, but just bear with us. I want to level set and make sure everyone in the room gets a sense of what we're talking about when we're talking about FED, Fidelity, Equity, and Dignity, and the workbook, the FED Community Workbook. So with Rabbit's vision, which here's rabbits also have almost 360 vision because of the placement of their eyes. So they can perceive predators behind them. They can literally see predators behind them. They can not just perceive. So looking back and all around us, we're going to go over some stuff we've already been over. What is FED? So FED is this principle that came from the mind of one of our dear colleagues, partners, Benjamin Perkins. He is a theologian as well as, and has had a tenure in public health his entire career. And through that process of tapping into, of course, his investment in human well-being through his spirituality and public health through his work, he distilled this concept of fidelity, equity, and dignity. A set of principles that all of us are drawn to already, for sure, and maybe have integrated into our work or our personal lives in varying ways. It's probably value set that you all relate to, but he gave us specific language for it. So fidelity, meaning that there's a commitment that you will always meet communities where they're at, and any solutions you create will have them at the core of designing those solutions. Equity, working to ensure that nutritional access is available to the most vulnerable communities. It should always be integrated into our policies and practices. And it can look like many different things, and we know it pretty instinctively when it feels inequitable. And dignity, keeping the inherent value of a human at the forefront of our minds, whatever their station in life is, whatever their experiences are, whatever their access is, everyone is deserving of health and well-being. That is the core of the intention of FED, which has a poor acronym, but we will stick with it. Over the past 3 years, my colleagues and several partners have been digging into how can fidelity, equity, and dignity look like in our sector, specifically produce prescription programming, but in the wider food as medicine and healthcare field. Through many focus groups, brainstorms, iterations, active case studies and research, we distilled what we call the Fed non-Fed comparison, a way at a high level overview to understand what a conventional produce prescription program or healthcare entity or food as medicine offering or many other interventions look like currently without the consideration of fidelity, equity, and dignity, and what they would look like, can look like, perhaps do look like when they are incorporating fidelity, equity, and dignity. So for example, I'll just highlight here too. In conventional models, we often see there's a focus on individual patient health, pathologies like obesity and chronic disease. They tend to be outcome focused and put the change, the element of change on the patient's biometrics. In a Fed-run program, there would be a holistic approach, a care about family, household, community's health. There would be an interest in the outcomes about the social cohesion and mental health of the individual, and it would evidence power shifting. In a conventional program, there would be this idea that patients have a deficit of knowledge and are poor decision makers. We don't align with that. In a Fed program, patients have their own assets of wisdom, culture, and community that inform their physical and mental well-being. Another example of a conventional approach would be there isn't much attention given to where prescription dollars go after a produce transaction, after a produce prescription is provided. But in a Fed model, prescription redemption would drive economic development to build a stronger localized food system. And it would also prioritize BIPOC farmers or food retailers or business owners or program managers as a community asset, as a way to strengthening a community. Part of how our sort of collective, our Fed collective, which is made up of researchers, practitioners, and just invested stakeholders, we came up with this longer term vision into a graphic where it feels like Fed programming has an existing cycle that never exactly has an endpoint. There is an element of where you're co-designing directly with your community and invested partners, all your stakeholders, you're implementing your program, and then you're learning directly back from your engaged community what is working, what is not working, and you redesign again together and re-implement. And our hope is that fidelity, equity, and dignity gets imbued in this process and gets poured out into our holistic life as humans in this society, in our relationship with all of the public services we interact with. I just want to center like how we focus or how we've sort of narrowed down where to start applying fidelity, equity, and dignity is we looked at how a produce prescription operates at a macro level and generally found there's 6 relatively consistent touch points, we call them, that a produce prescription program goes through. Some kind of eligibility screening to enroll participants, some kind of relationship with a healthcare provider who is offering the referral and access to a produce prescription program. There's a point in which the financial incentive, the voucher, the grocery loyalty card, or a physical food box is provided. And then a place where to get those things or cash in on those things. Either your voucher is redeemable at a farmer's market or a grocery store, or you can go and pick up a food box directly at a farm or a food pantry, or perhaps it's a delivery system where it comes directly to your door. And then perhaps your program offers additionally nutrition and culinary education. That can look many ways. It can be a physical class that people come to in person. It can be small recipe recommendations sent over SMS after people have provided their phone number and consent during registration or enrollment. And then an element of data collection and evaluation, something to understand what is the impact of your program having. Are folks who entered with minimal consumption of fruits and vegetables increasing their consumption? Does it make them feel more connected to their community? Are your farmer partners or grocery retailers finding economic value in participating in your program? Anything of that nature. And we did that so that we could investigate what are very specific examples of fidelity, equity, and dignity at each of those 6 touch points. And that's how the Fed Community Workbook came into living. Through our development of this workbook over the course of 2 years, we realized there was another touch point to consider, which we call the 7th touch point, program funding and sustainability. That even though within program operations, you might have a healthcare partner or a retail partner or a farm partner, and you might be a nonprofit or the healthcare entity yourself, there's also the peripheral philanthropic and public funds, federal or state level funds, that are supporting the sustainability of such programs. And they need to be considered when investigating fidelity, equity, and dignity in this work as well. So there are 7th touch point. I'm gonna actually, sorry, I'll take that second. I'm going to stop sharing screen for one moment and switch to sharing screen on another document, and I'm gonna walk you all through. Thank you so much, the ocean. Bear with me here. Can everyone see my screen okay? Great. So you're looking at a PDF version of the Fed Community Workbook. Kaylee, thank you so much for dropping a link to it in the chat. I'm going to share, just scroll an overview of it so you all have some familiarity if you haven't gotten a chance to look at it before today. It opens up on this page and shares a table of contents and acknowledges all the people whose minds or words or emails influenced the body of this workbook. If you're interested in researching any of them, you should absolutely go ahead. And if you're interested in potentially participating in a second iteration of this workbook, this is where you would be credited as well if you participated, and you're welcome to reach out to us over email to let us know after this session. So a little bit about how this workbook is intended to be used. This workbook was, well, I've highlighted here exactly, it's intended to provide guidance for anyone developing a program or improving an existing program, improving a specific process within your produce prescription program or healthy food RX program, specifically to align the work with the core values listed here: fidelity, equity, and dignity, or values that are common in social justice efforts. And anyone can utilize this workbook. It was, of course, written for a specific model of programming, produce prescriptions, but many of these specific examples of principles can be applied to other interventions, other sectors, and the wider healthcare field or food systems field. And that was a little bit of what I had highlighted here to express to you all. It's diversity of application, even though this particular workbook is so specific. Part of why we're going to deep dive into it today as a group is because as you all are forming like Voltron as a statewide network, a coalition, to come to a consensus on your longer term strategy and where your efforts can shape and potentially influence policy and how to be connected and supportive of each other. Our hope is that in today's session, we can look at the granular level, at the ground level, at snake's eye view or mineral view or lavender view of y'all's programs. Our hope is that this session can allow for that fixation so that in workshop 3 on April 3rd, we can come up to a bird's eye view and think about how to apply the things that we surface in today's session at a network level, at a statewide level, and what you all value by being in the OCFSN. So I'm going to walk you through just so you all can see what the workbook looks like. We share back what I shared, what is FED, and some of the framing that informed FED. I'll get back to this particular section towards the end of our conversation today. Much of the what we already discussed around what we see as conventional, what we see as FED. And then the majority of the workbook is an active workbook, one where in theory you would have a print version and get your pen and pencil out and start to mark up things based on a prompt that's written into the workbook. I won't share much about it now because we'll get to do it later, but I just want you all to see an overview of what that looks like within the document. Each touch point is described here in a paragraph, and then examples of how fidelity, equity, and dignity can show up under a specific touch point are written in. And there's a line here for the filler outer to complete the prompt, but we'll get to do that digitally together. And that's what it looks like. There's a further worksheet that is best used in a team-wide setting and over perhaps a few weeks or a few months, and we won't get into that today. And then some conclusive documents, and I'll jump back over to our slide deck. Okay, now getting to where things live low to the ground. If you haven't downloaded it, please feel free to. There's a few ways to do so. Kaylee did share a link in the chat. I can also, thank you so much. Yes, it is a Google Drive link. You can look at it on the Google Drive platform or download it directly. If that's helpful, you're welcome to scan this QR code or go to this website to do so as well. But it's not critical for you to have a copy right now. It just will be valuable to you all at some point. So just hang on to that. I do want to show you a visual example. This is something we shared on January 31st, a visual example of how someone filled out the workbook in person. We just scanned a couple of pages of their own workbook after they had done the prompt. So I will verbally explain how the prompt works so you all can get a sense. The workbook seeks to be an assessment tool for the user, any program operator or any person holding the workbook. It's just a way for you to gauge what is your program already aligned with / implementing. And we identify that by the symbol of an asterisk. What criteria have we written out here that your program could not feasibly implement or that would be antithetical to FED, Fidelity, Equity, and Dignity, or potentially just doesn't work for the circumstances of your community. We represent that as an X. And then what criteria have we listed here that you haven't yet implemented, but you're really drawn to, you're magnetized by? You can see that this would be valuable to your community, and you aspire to finding a way to integrate that criteria into your operations at some point. And we represent that with an exclamation point. So for example, here, this was a program in New Haven, Connecticut called Food for Moms. And Andrea, the program manager there, put an asterisk next to this particular example of Fidelity under the participant recruitment and eligibility screening touch point. So the point at which Food for Moms recruits patient participants and walks them through some kind of eligibility screening. Andrea said that the outreach strategies, said that they already do this. And we wrote it as, your outreach strategies should be informed by communities rather than solely identified by statistical information on demographics and access. This level of initial community work will improve your enrollment process, the participation you get, and the participant experience as a whole. Through community charrettes or discussions, a program can better identify program aspects, such as potential underserved target populations, where community members go for healthcare services, and where they shop, in addition to expanding your outreach and recruitment pool. So this is a way that Fidelity is exemplified. If before you launch your program, you host something like a focus group or a charrette to understand who you should be serving and who you should be partnering with. And in this case, Food for Moms already does that. This is just another visual example. For this one, Andrea indicated that there was a criteria within their data collection and evaluation that was not feasible for Food for Moms. And in this particular case, the example is participants can own and access their data and track their own progress towards goals. Data will make possible patient and community learning, in addition to the benefit of health systems, academics, and technology companies working to scale PRX interventions. Community report backs of program impact should be incorporated as key milestones. And for whatever reason, in the context of her program, this felt not feasible to implement. Perhaps the evaluation structure that they have is less invasive, and it would be a burden to the patient participants at Food for Moms to get onboarded to a tracker system. So she made the choice that this is not something we want to work towards. Our next step is we're gonna get a chance to investigate those same things for each of y'all's work. If some of you may not run a program, that's totally okay. As you're collectively in this network, try and envision yourself as what stakeholder role do you have towards any of these touch point and these criteria, and how would you want to support the shape of fidelity, equity, and dignity in them? And we're going to start by launching a poll. Thank you so much. Which touch point are you drawn to discussing in a breakout room for the next 20 minutes? Our attempt is to narrow down to 4 of the most popular. But go ahead and start filling this out, and I will set a timeline. One minute. Just a couple more seconds here. See a couple folks. Okay, that's pretty good. 73% participation. All right. It looks like program management is very popular. Nutrition and culinary education. And then a few folks trickled in different areas. What I'll ask is the folks who voted participant recruitment, data collection, and program funding, would you be willing to verbalize or write in the chat if there's another topic someone has already selected you'd be up for discussing? Anyone want to come off mute?
I said program funding and sustainability, but I'd also do data collection. I don't know how much further you're trying to collapse this, data collection or wherever.
We'll do two, we'll narrow it down between y'all's 3 to 2. So thank you so much, Amber. Data collection and participant recruitment. Okay, so bear with me all. I'm going to create the breakout rooms.
So I've got some breakout rooms going. Maham, so we have program management, and then we have nutrition and culinary, and then we have data collection. What was the fourth one?
Participant recruitment and
Thank
eligibility. Or Ruthie, I'm sorry, I just saw your chat. Did you select participant recruitment and are now interested in going into data collection?
I still like the participant collection, but yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. You might be one-on-one with one of us facilitators, but that's perfectly okay. I'm happy to discuss that with you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Hold on. So how many rooms am I supposed to have? Sorry, I can't
No worries.
multitask.
I'm so sorry. 4 rooms.
Okay.
Participant recruitment,
Yep.
nutrition, education, data
Yep.
collection, program management.
Perfect. And then are we letting folks self-select which rooms they're going to?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Right.
So while you're in the breakout room, I'll keep this slide up. Wonderful. And if each of Jen, Kaylee, Rochelle, and myself will be in each of the rooms as well, I will self-identify. I'll go into participant recruitment. Rochelle, if you don't mind doing data collection. Kaylee, if you don't mind doing nutrition education. And Jen, program management.
I think I'm realizing I might have done this incorrectly. Are folks able to self-select right now, or do you have to?
I see the option to self-select.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much, Shin. And while you're there, I'll leave this screen up. Hopefully you'll still be able to see it while in the breakout room. You'll be able to, we'll have 20 minutes for this. And the idea is to focus on the data collection section of the Fed Community Workbook. So if someone can, who has gone through the step of downloading it, bring that to the forefront, screen share if needed. I can stop screen sharing and talk through the criteria listed there. Through discussion, you can share back verbally with each other in a structured way or in an open-ended way. If you run a program and you implement that, it's not relevant for you, or you hope to one day implement that. And if you don't run a program, what your reflections are on it. After 20 minutes, we'll come back to the main room and get a chance to share back 5 minutes per group as to what we discussed and what we surfaced and where we found alignment with each other. Does that make sense for everyone? Okay, I will see you all in the groups, in the breakout rooms. Folks trickling back in. Hi, everyone.
Dang it.
It
Cut
goes
off.
so fast.
Sounds like Juliet was in the middle of a sentence.
Well,
I was.
we
but
had a
it-
really, yeah, we had a big one. We had the program management. So like we didn't even, we got through like just one section of it, just the Fidelity. So
Sometimes, yeah, it's like that. And I actually realized, y'all, I have just miscalculated time, and we've actually only got 8 minutes left. However,
No.
we're going to edit, and it's clear that some of this conversation had been rich. So excited to hear about it. And at our April 3rd workshop, we'll make sure to incorporate time to circle back to whatever we didn't cover today. So actually, if folks could just share back in 2 minutes or less per group, which will be really tight, that would be deeply appreciated. And know that we'll get a chance to more richly touch base with each other again on April 3rd.
I'm also wondering, Maham, so folks don't lose any train of thought. If you have something longer, drop it in the chat. We'll save all that.
Yes, please. Thank you. That's a great idea, Shin. Is there a group that is willing to volunteer to go first? Okay, I'm gonna.
I mean,
Jen, to have you speak on our behalf if you're open to it.
I was gonna say, like, we kind of came in still talking, so we might as well just continue that. So we had the program management, and Juliet was pretty much our example for going through this workbook. They work at Umpqua, and I feel like they are very like a great leader in this working group. So if you don't know her, like reach out. She like seriously is, as Elle said, like, oh, so you're superhuman, like you like run this program. But so I think that it was really interesting to kind of go through this. Again, we only got to the Fidelity part, but a lot of the stars, a lot of exclamation points, and then there's no kind of like syllable for we're doing it kind of, it could be better. So it was like a lot of star exclamation points. The thing that we kind of ended on was like, are there going to be specific tools, or like what are reference points that we can have in order to, like, if we have an exclamation point, are there resources that are available that we can kind of be like, you put an exclamation point here, this is what's going to be available for you, and things like that.
Very good. Thank you, Jen. And you all had program management. Okay, wonderful. Anyone in nutrition and culinary education want to go?
Lucia, I don't know if you want to present. I can also, sorry, my internet went out and I'm back on my phone here. So happy to also chime in.
No, you go ahead. Yeah, I think you took the notes.
Okay. So Lucia and I were in the nutrition education, culinary education group. And we talked about Lucia's program at Adelante Mujeres. And there were a lot of stars. We didn't get through every single point, but we got through a lot of them. And there were a ton of stars on there. They're doing a ton of great work and really doing a lot to incorporate the participant and cultural background of participants in the program. So there's a lot to celebrate there. But as I think we're always our best critic. So Lucia, I was like, no, but you guys are doing such great work. And there's always room to expand and grow and improve. And some of those areas we're thinking about the celebratory aspect of things even more. So looking at different cultural holidays that could be incorporated into nutrition education. And it was interesting. There was a point under the Fidelity portion that I think the use of support groups or peer support groups in English can be about a many different topics. And in Spanish, sometimes there's a mental health, like the term support group has a mental health meaning more so. And so Lucia was talking about like how it would be great that there are a lot of topics outside of nutrition education that come up naturally in those discussions, and how to expand and support people in that way as well. And there was a lot of different things that we talked about. I think just thinking about, there's like the program staff versus clinical staff in the clinic that they partner with. And so also supporting the clinical staff in having a better idea of what is food as medicine, and including them in communication so that they feel a part of this process too, and feel like greater champions of what's going on. And then accessibility, like expanding to more farmers markets than are currently available. I know we've got a lot more to go, so I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thank you, the Ocean, Kaylee, on nutrition and culinary education with Lucia. Data collection. Anyone from the team there?
I'm happy to share unless someone else wants to pop on. Okay, so we had a rich like opening discussion, which maybe took up a little bit of our time. But essentially, I think some of the highlights that we landed on was the focuses that we landed on were really thinking about infidelity, thinking about both like how data is captured, and talking about data capturing databases and how things are stored and what can be shared with participants, looking at the difference between extractive and like generative data collection. So how are the participants benefiting from it? And Carla mentioned some of the shifts that Adelante Mujeres is going through in order to be able to kind of track and understand what's happening year to year with participants. And also Michelle talked about an application that they've built, or a database that they've built within the clinics that she's working with over the course of the last year or two, that's allowing them to have different kinds of providers and participants all looking at the same kinds of data and shifts over the course of program time. So she gives some really exciting, for me, I'll say like very exciting and promising ideas around how like clinics and different kinds of providers and participants and stakeholders within a program might be able to be looking at data together. And that group that did the database development for her program also has recently developed a database for Kaiser. And so it looks like they're kind of taking this baseline database that they've built and making it possible to shift for different kinds of programming. So it'd be interesting to learn more from her, because it seems like there really is a lot of centering of accessibility and transparency of data and really allowing it to be person-centered. So there's a lot more there, but I know we're at 1:30. Really rich to even just start talking about these touch points together.
Thank you, Rochelle. Thank you, NYC Subway, and the data collection conversation group. I'll share quickly about the participant recruitment and eligibility screening group, which is myself and Miss Ruthie. Miss Ruthie asked me to speak on behalf of what you serviced. So I will summarize. Under participant recruitment and eligibility, we got through Fidelity and Equity, and one example criteria of dignity, all of which were either an exclamation point or an asterisk, something that Ms. Ruthie is planning to implement, already has plans to implement, and already ideated that she finds valuable and wants to approach recruitment and a survey for enrolling in that method, or is something that they've already done. And she knows that there can just be additional customization of a survey that exists, but the values are already living there in the questions they created. So my guess is there's a lot of alignment across all of you all who are in different areas of Oregon, running different program models, or not necessarily within a program, but working peripherally to support food as medicine work. And you all are in this network, which is the first filter for alignment. But now we've deepened a little bit what specific things about a food as medicine program you all value. At least we've shaved off the tip of the iceberg for that conversation. Our goal is that through this entire workshop series, you all got exposure to the FED framework, which is just new language to name the things you already do and the things you already care about. Bye, plants. Bye, Carla. And that then by getting more informed on how FED can look, it can shape how all of you envision the network's objectives, the network's goals, the network's collective vision for the coming year. Is there a model for the types of programs that become members of OCFSM? Is there a policy advocacy track you all want to advocate for when your 1115 waiver is renegotiated? Is there a statewide grant program that you all can identify has elements that are inequitable, and as a statewide coalition in the power of numbers and alignment with each other, you can go to that grantor, that payer, that funder, and say, that doesn't work for our programming. It should actually look like this. And we have a whole community behind us that agrees. So I'm going to wrap up here to honor everyone's day and hours and time. I wanted to share more with you about the groundwater approach that we actually just exhibited. That's part of why is it the basic idea being that inequities live in groundwater. They're inherently systemic. And so if we work at the granular level to iron out how we can see equity living instead, it can change the groundwater. That's the idea. So if we work on a little pebble that lives in the river, dust it off, get it in alignment with us, and slowly the river will be filtered with less inequities. Trying to make that analogy for y'all's statewide programming. Okay, everyone. I am so grateful for your participation in all of this, and I hope it felt rich. Us as a team, Kaylee, Jen, Rochelle, and myself will consolidate what was surfaced here and make sure to develop what we do on April 3rd to work off of this and talk about what you all are going to do at a statewide level.
Thank you, Maham, for leading us through such a fabulous session today, and love all of the questions and community brought together here today. Just keep an eye out for some communications from us with follow-up for this and for the next session, like Maham said, and some other meetings around the 1115 waiver. If you're interested in that, please reach out. That's some groundwork happening to bring more equity into our food system too for community members. So thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day.